Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We are digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. Let us know where you think we got it right, where you think we got it wrong, or whatever's on your mind. You can do that by visiting unsilentpodcast.com, going to Rumble's comment section, or the other various social media channels where people hang out and discuss important things like cat videos and chicken banana. Right. That's my favorite, chicken and banana. That's a good one. Anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, well, you gotta have some fun videos in there to offset the the stuff happening in the world, right?
Yeah, but do you mean like a chicken eating a banana, or you mean like a chicken and banana
No.
plate?
You have never heard the rip chicken banana. You got to look it up, Brian. Come on,
We'll do that immediately after we stop recording today. I got to see what you're talking about.
You got to see chicken and banana. It's like, you remember a few years ago it was Baby Shark. Now it's chicken banana.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad you bestowed upon us your rendition. I like it.
I pay attention. Yeah, I pay attention to these important social trends. Just so everybody can know what's going on.
All right. Well, for those listening, Dave and I recorded this a week earlier than we normally would have because I have some travel happening. So Dave was nice enough to work with me on that. So if something catastrophic happened over the last week and we're not talking about it and you're wondering why, that's the reason. So Dave, I have a question for you. Am I the only one who remembers like 30 years of hearing about how the world's going to end because of climate and we're going to run out of water and I mean, you see these pictures of Hoover Dam and like it's 80 feet below, when they built it and stuff like that. And we're supposed to, if I'm understanding the narrative correctly, the solution is more taxes, obviously.
Of course. Oh, yeah.
That's always
the solution. Yeah.
Answer. There's too many people. I've heard that off and on over the years. We've got to really start taking our conservation on water efforts seriously. Like I've heard that off and on throughout the years, and there's others. But there seems to be a loophole in that. If the water is going for AI data centers, then all that stuff goes away. You see, somehow, if the water is used for humans, like to, I don't know, take a shower and drink, then we got a water problem. But if you're building an AI data center, then those problems don't apply. So here's why I'm bringing this up. This is I verified that this is true. Actually, some of the stuff I just like, oh yeah, here's a story, well, whatever. But this one I was like, that can't be right, and so I verified it, and it's actually correct. 49,000 Lake Tahoe residents have been told their power source is going away. They're on the California side of Lake Tahoe.
Right.
They get their power from Nevada.
Yep.
Nevada said, hey, we got this big AI data center stuff coming in. We're diverting our power to them. You guys got to figure something else out. Really?
I hadn't heard that.
49,000 people.
My word. That's quite the, I'm surprised that, politicians said that. I'm surprised that. Well, of course, I guess if it's on the other side, then they don't care because it's the Nevada people are still going to vote them into office, and they're the ones they don't care about the California people, right?
Yeah. So they're going to lose 75% of their electrical supply by May of 2027. So they got they got a whole year to figure it out.
So it's only a year. When you said that, I thought, well, this is probably like a 5-year thing.
So the backstory is they had like a power agreement with X number of years that they said, after 50 years or 10 years or whatever it is, we'll kind of figure it out then. Well, they're figuring it out in a way that was not in the original playbook.
Wow. That's pretty staggering. It's not like you can. Where do you get the power? They're either gonna have to buy it from somebody, either buy it from Washington State. But they're gonna be scrambling because power infrastructure is, it's significant. Not just the power generation, but routing the power from one place to another.
I have to imagine they'll figure out. They're not gonna leave 50,000 people.
Sure,
they'll figure something out. But this particular situation, I'm sure will get resolved. But here's the thing that is really starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
All these things with the climate change and the water and the power. I mean, our power grid is like archaic at this point. It's
Oh,
like,
it's yes.
it's not quite from the Stone Age, but it's probably closer to
Pretty
Stone Age than
close.
today.
Yeah.
And there's all these concerns and all this stuff. However, on this AI stuff, which by the way, I've never seen a ballot come across my dining room table that said, "Hey, do you want to do more AI or less?" Like this is not something we get a vote on, right? People make these decisions, and then we just got to kind of navigate the
Yeah.
world that they're creating. It's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But why is it, Dave? This is a legit, sincere
Yeah,
question.
sure.
Why is it that when AI and all these kinds of things are involved, all those concerns are just like they're not even addressed. They're not
Yeah.
even acknowledged. Now,
Yeah.
if I want to, or if you, because you live in Washington State, if you want to collect rainwater off your house and store it to feed your garden, that's no go. That
No, no,
not
no,
allowed.
no.
It's
That's
not your water. Okay,
environmental catastrophe.
the state of Washington owns the water.
Yeah.
The millisecond it hits your roof. Okay,
Right.
that's the way it is.
Yep.
I'm not embellishing that. That's the way
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
But the reserves of water that are supposedly, plausibly set aside for drinking and bathing and things like that, that's not your water. Now it's for the AI data centers. Help
Yeah.
me make sense of this. And this is not a left or right thing.
Sure.
I'm pissed at both of them.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, so here's a principle. Okay, this is principle 422, and that is that reality takes a backseat to trend.
Okay.
It always
I thought you were
well,
going to say
okay.
economics, but okay,
No,
trend
no,
works too.
no, no. Well, let me give you another practical example of the exact same principle applied in a completely different way. You remember a few years ago, don't you got to be 6 feet away from everybody. You got to wear a mask on a mask and a mask and a mask, and don't groupings of three or more people are verboten. Because you'll all die and everybody's going to collapse into a little heap of glob because of COVID. All of
Yeah.
that's good. So if you don't take this seriously, you are just an awful person. Except you can gather 1 million people in downtown Seattle and protest because, racism and such. So
Yeah.
trend always takes precedence over reality, over fact. And so with AI is the ultimate goal. AI is the biggest gold rush since the gold rush. AI is the biggest gold rush since oil. AI is the biggest gold rush since
Pardon me for interrupting, but for whom? Who is it the biggest gold rush for?
the people with money.
Okay, I was gonna say I haven't gotten any wealthier
You
from
haven't got your
AI.
royalty check yet? You haven't got your check yet? Shoot. No, it's the people with money that are investing tens of billions, hundreds of billions, and the thing is, you don't want to be left behind. You have FOMO, fear of missing out, right? So if you're a BlackRock, if you're any one of the big financial houses, if you're a VC or something, you do not want to miss out on AI because AI is the biggest thing of all time, depending on who you believe. And so, therefore, all of these other considerations. So, like for a long time, nuclear was also a forbidden thing. You can't, when people lay down their bodies in front of trains because nuclear or oil is coming through or something else is coming through. Well, now we're just going to stick a micronuclear power, which I'm in favor of micronuclear power. I'm in favor of all that
Yeah.
stuff because I think it's got great promise. But, again, it's trend versus reality. If trend is important, if it's an important trend, then reality must take a back seat to the trend. Just like it did during COVID, we could gather in massive groups because you can't get COVID when you're protesting racism. It's a biological fact,
Yeah.
just like it is with AI.
Or if you're shopping and getting your groceries from a multi-billion-dollar company, your odds of getting COVID went way down, but the mom and pop grocery store they were way up. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
right. Yeah, that is the explanation. I mean, it is the explanation.
So okay. So trend supersedes, what
Reality,
did you say? Reality.
trend always supersedes reality. It's
Yeah.
more important than
Okay.
reality.
I'm gonna take that and run with it. I'm gonna say yes, and especially if it's a financial trend.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because financial trends, you mobilize everything. If it's a financial trend, yeah, totally.
Yeah, like
If
the
it's a
like the
financial trend,
protesting was not a financial trend that I know of. It was a society like a philosophical trend or whatever. But the economic trends they trump everything. I think.
yeah. Well, no, the COVID thing was also ultimately a financial thing too, because it had to do with power, and
Yeah, and it was the greatest wealth transfer in human history.
yeah, because tens of gazillions of dollars that the government shelled out for vaccines that
Yeah,
everybody had to get. Yeah, no, that's exactly,
and
it's all financial.
$6 trillion was flooded into the economy, which ultimately ended up on Wall Street and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So this has a bit of a personal thing for me. This AI data center because I saw a story. You brought up BlackRock and the guy who is in charge of BlackRock has the most appropriate name of anybody. I think
Larry Fink.
Larry
Yeah.
Fink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think that's like a like that's better than any Bond villain name you could
Yeah.
fit. Like
No, it
it's so
is.
fitting for that guy, right?
It is Dr.
But
Evil.
he was mentioning in some whatever lecture WEF style
Yeah.
thing he was doing. He was talking about the he named 6 states that would be like the hot spots for AI data centers, and
Right.
one of those is Arizona.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought, well, wait a second here. All we hear in Arizona is how there's a water shortage and like we're at the mercy of the Colorado River, which we're sharing with California, and water levels are coming down in the western United States, and we're
Yeah.
seeing droughts like we've never seen before, and Arizona, like here, water is not an abundant resource; it's a
Right.
scarce resource.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why the hell would you put AI data center in Arizona? Why would you make Arizona one of the hubs of
Yeah.
AI data centers if we have a water shortage already? And again, I don't hear it on the news. I don't hear politicians talking about it. I don't hear it. This is a topic like it's just a non-factor. Like
Yeah.
the water usage is a non-factor in the exact places where they've been railing about water conservation for 25 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and if there's if there's enough money involved, they'll get water there. I mean, they will, put a pipeline in from the Gulf of Mexico or for the Pacific Ocean for thousands of miles, and they'll desalinate it along the way or do
Right.
something. I mean,
So
if there's enough money, you
so
can do anything.
I fully agree with everything you're saying. And I just want to step back and acknowledge what we just said or what you just said, because I think you're 100% right.
Yeah,
If the people will go without water, man, we got to cut back on the water.
right.
But if we can make a buck, we will desalinate whatever
Of
we
course.
will melt Arctic caps and desalinate that stuff to make it happen.
Totally. Absolutely.
We
And
will
there you
move
go
heaven and earth to make sure we get water for the data
for the
centers,
data center.
but for the people, you just need to use less.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and there, yeah, and that is literal reality. I mean, that is literal reality. Sad but true. People are
Oh my
useful
gosh.
as products to be bartered. I mean, it is a sad reality that people are useful basically as products to be bartered and to be
Yeah.
utilized, but as factors of we're making decisions for their benefit. No, that's so last century.
Yeah. So that leads into something else I heard just today, and this I've not verified. I don't know if this is true or not, but it smells like it probably is. And that is Walmart apparently bought Vizio that makes TVs.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that.
Okay. And this happened maybe a year or two ago or something like that. But even if that part's not true, that's not the headline.
Sure.
Um, the headline is to use these TVs, you have to have a Walmart account before you can have like an app, like it's a smart TV, but you can't use the apps unless you have a Walmart account.
Right.
But the I guess you could call it a conspiracy theory, although I at this point it's all but a certainty probably
Sure.
that the TV then is like paying attention to what you're watching, and if you see a commercial for you know Johnson and Johnson baby powder, does that translate to you going to Walmart and buying Johnson and Johnson baby powder? Like they're tracking not just your buying habits now,
Sure.
but your information intake habits, and to see how that correlates with your buying habits.
Yeah.
And again, I don't remember a vote on this. I never hear politicians talk about it.
Yeah.
This is Meta and all these apps we use now. They collect our data and things like
Yeah.
that. So when you put all these things together, like it's starting to feel like we humans are just cogs in the machine to feed the
Yeah,
man.
of course. Yeah, well, that's what I mean when I say we're products. We are
Right.
basically vended to the highest bidder,
Yeah.
so whether it's I got to have my Amazon Prime account to get my favorite shows. Amazon, you got to remember, Amazon was a book club. It was a
Yeah.
bookstore. And now, they're a studio. They deliver my groceries. They do everything under the sun. So I am a product to them, just as I am a product to Walmart, their biggest competitor. And so they're going to do the same thing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future, Walmart has, Walmart Studios produces the next Star Trek or whatever.
Right. Right. Right.
It's
Right.
just we are
Yeah.
products and they have distribution.
And to get out in front of the arguments, I'm sure people would make it. Well, this is what's wrong with capitalism. By the way, I'm sure socialist countries do this just
Oh
as
yeah,
much, if not more. I'm sure China is. They have more cameras per capita than
yeah,
in China than anywhere. I'm
yeah.
pretty sure the Alibabas of China are getting wealthy off the same tactics that we are talking about here.
Oh yeah,
Um, so my question is this it doesn't feel like it's a new phenomenon. It just feels like it's a new wrinkle on an old phenomenon.
yeah.
Like in the old days, in the Roman days, like the humans were commodities, but they were commodities to go to war for you to make the
Yeah.
Caesar wealthy by going to war. So it's a different modality, but it's the same old story,
Well,
kind
it
of.
is patronage. I mean, in the old systems, they had patronage, and so you're paying. So yeah, it's the same modality. It's just much more sophisticated, or it's a different modality. It's the same principle, different
Right.
modality, because we got more sophisticated ways to control people and to manipulate them than we did 1,000, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. It's such an odd perspective, and again, I'm not for it, but also I feel like we're helpless to it. So it's not like
Yeah.
anything you can like. You're not going to be able to protest your way out of this, probably,
No,
or
no.
vote your way out of this kind of thing. Um, it's just an interesting way to like step back and look at the 30,000 foot view and just see the common trend is always
Yeah.
getting the isolated few more basically more money, more power, more whatever.
Now, there are some companies like Apple is an interesting company in the sense that they have taken a contrarian position in terms of personal anonymity and liberty, and they're commoditizing personal privacy in their products versus like the other companies. So they're taking the opposite view of non-trackability and all this kind of, because they don't make most of their money on advertising. They make most of their money on selling products and such. So they
Yeah.
are. So the interesting thing about it is you can take the same thing. My point is you can take the same thing, invert the principle, and there's still a way to make money on it. So
Right.
they're doing that. And then also you look at that same thing, and governments can use the same thing to prevent the control of the private. They take control of the public area. So if you like, in Europe is the perfect example of that. They've got the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation or something like that. It's what they're suing Elon Musk. They want to arrest Elon Musk in France and such.
Yeah.
So they're taking the position that your privacy and your data is so important that private companies shouldn't be able to say or do things to compromise that. So we are taking control of your privacy, Brian, so that we can protect you. So same principle again, just a different player at the head of that. So everybody's vying, along those lines. Everybody's vying for control over who benefits from that.
Yeah. And as you were talking about that stuff they're doing in Europe with that regulation that they're suing Elon Musk over. I don't know if it was yesterday or today as we're recording this, but King Charles of England
Mm-hmm.
literally said we're going to be doing a digital ID. Like
Yeah.
he announced it was a weird thing for him to it. It didn't come from
It's
Parliament. It didn't.
Yeah, I
It
am
was a weird.
surprised. I don't. Yeah, that is strange that he said that, because the
Did you see
monarch.
that?
No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm surprised
And
because the monarchy is supposed to be, it's head of state, not anything
yeah.
that's an active
And
role.
again, for all I know, it could have been an AI generated thing or whatever. But
Sure,
but it was not like he was standing at the balcony making a grand proclamation. It was not like that. He
sure,
was he was in a chair,
yeah,
in a fancy room in the castle or whatever. But
sure,
um, whether or not that video was AI generated or not. Like, that's the trend. Again, going back to the trends is
Sure
this
it is.
digital ID thing, which all this stuff. And so the reason I'm bringing it up here is, we talk about the fourth turning a lot, and like, these things coming unraveled.
Hmm.
It does feel like, you got the mosquitoes that are being, genetically modified, and
Yeah.
you got all these things that are, again, I don't know how much truth there is to it, but I've not ever heard anybody say no, that's not happening. Not
Right.
one time I've ever heard somebody say no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
uh you got the viruses. Now we got the hantavirus, which has been
Hmm.
genetically modified and all this kind of stuff. I wonder how much of a factor all these things just working against the regular Joe and Jane, how much of that is a factor in the 420 when people are just like, you know what, enough is enough. Like, again, like
Yeah.
we talked a couple weeks ago, it's not the one thing, it's a culmination of
Yeah.
all the things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, well, because it's all these societal trends leading people to a crisis moment, and
Yeah,
whatever. And so I don't think the crisis moment has ever been predictable. But what's predictable is the attitude of the public during that crisis moment. The attitude of the public, whether it's AI generated or whatever it is generated, the attitude of the public during those moments is a reduction to survival. So,
yeah,
during the end of the third into the fourth turning, everything is so uber complex that people just throw up their hands and say, I'm just going back home to have dinner, but
right.
then there comes a point when we move past that, and then we get to the point where, no, I'm not going home to have dinner. I am hitting the streets because I'm mad as hell, and we can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
So, and that could be, I mean, this is one of many factors. I think this fourth turning will be different than other fourth turnings because we are so sophisticated now compared
yeah,
to, each time we get more sophisticated. World War II, we had the level of sophistication that produced an atomic bomb, so that was a level of sophistication that we never had, prior to that. Prior to that, we had, in the Civil War, we had, machine guns, Gatling
yeah, the
guns.
Gatling gun. Yep.
Yeah, and things that were, again, so each time they become more sophisticated, and you have more dead people. So whether,
Yeah,
is that going to be the case this time? I don't know, but it seems like it probably would be.
you're a tech guy, so it feels like one of the things that's different about this fourth turning is, like, you look at, let's just take warfare, right?
Yeah.
The evolution of technological advancements on warfare, right? So
Yeah.
you have the invention of the gun and gunpowder. That was a massive leap forward. And then you have,
Sure.
like, they're using like muskets and balls that weren't very accurate and things like that. And then you get
Yeah.
the rifling, and then you
Yeah.
get the repeating, and then that leads to the Gatling gun, like World War II, like, or
Yeah.
the Civil War era, like you're talking about. Then we start developing chemicals in World War One.
Yeah.
Then we get the atomic bomb in World War II. But none of those things, if they went away, would bring humanity, like, day-to-day life backwards, right?
No.
The
No.
things we're talking about now with like AI and all this kind of stuff, if we build our society around those things, and then for whatever reason they have to go away because we don't have power or like whatever,
Sure.
the society will regress decades or centuries, not just that one component. Like, a Gatling gun going away doesn't mean anything if you're like growing crops in your field, or
Right.
your kids still go to school, and like you still have a job you go to and things like that.
Right.
This is different in that sense, though, that if we build our society around these new technologies, and then something catastrophic happens, like we you don't just go out and pick the corn out of your farm, out of your crop anymore, because you don't have a crop. Like,
Yeah. Well,
you're wholly dependent upon this stuff.
and because all of the knowledge of how to live that way is gone.
Right.
So that's, we've talked about the turnings and the 80-year cycles and all that kind of stuff. And, we've also touched on several times the notion that there are longer cycles, in addition to these, the span of a normal human life kind of cycle. And so it's very, I was watching something the other day about how the idea that, maybe 10,000 years ago or 8,000 years ago, we had a civilization as advanced as we have today in other ways.
Yeah.
Maybe we used
Yeah.
some other science that we don't have anymore, or something, not like, weirdo stuff, but, who knows? Maybe it's weirdo stuff. I don't know. But
Yeah.
the idea behind that is if we had a complete reset, like a mega turning, if you will, every so often we get a certain level of advancement, and we get so advanced that the not just the modular systems of that age collapse, but the entire societal system collapses, and then we literally have to go back and learn to farm again and learn
Yeah.
animal husbandry and just restart over. And that's where
Yeah.
all those odd, inexplicable stories from, on cave walls and stuff come from. How did they know that? Well,
Yeah.
maybe we had a different kind of society that we
Yeah.
don't know about.
No, I tend to think that those things are um true. Like, if you look at the biblical flood story,
Yeah.
every civilization
Yeah.
has a variation of that story. Not
Yeah.
It's not always the same,
Right.
but there's in the timeline's always about 12,000 years ago, the
Yep.
Younger Dryas period, and we know that that's where up in Washington State, some of the in eastern Washington there, the geographic formations happened during a
Yeah.
cataclysmic flood,
Right.
the size of which we can barely calculate how many gallons per minute, because the volume is just like through the
It's
roof,
insane.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um so yeah, there's part of me that's like, yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
happened for sure. I'm just
Yeah. We
saying
don't know.
saying it couldn't happen is not realistic, right?
Yeah. Well, and it makes
But
sense that it would happen too. I mean, Earth
yeah,
is very old,
four
and
billion years old.
yeah, I mean, so if the Earth is this old, I mean, why are we where we're at? Why aren't we much more advanced than we are? And then there's also ideas in cosmology. There's the Fermi paradox you've probably heard of, where the idea is that if the universe is so big, there's probably other beings out there. We've got the ability now to probe 100 or more light years out. Why haven't we found anybody? We should have found people by now. Are we alone in the universe, or is there something else? And then there's the idea then that civilizations, and I can't even remember what it's called. It's not the Fermi paradox. That's a different one. But it has to do with the distances involved. But that civilizations in the universe, maybe not just human civilization, but any kind of civilization of sentient beings that would exist in this universe, get to the point where they advance to a point where they essentially implode and have to start over. And that's why we don't see spaceships running around
Right,
here, from other
right.
planets. And maybe that happens on
Well,
Earth.
have you not been to aliens.gov or whatever the
Oh
that
yeah,
new
the new
website is, where
one. Yeah, where all
they
this.
released a whole bunch of stuff, and
It's so sad. It's so sad because every time they do, I've tracked that stuff for years. I've got books on UFOs, and it's all been very fascinating and fun. But the sad thing about all that is that so many people, they put their hopes, like, it's finally here, it's disclosure. I think Steven Spielberg's coming out with that movie, Disclosure, or Disclosure Now, or some such thing. I think this summer or something, where he's going to go over. I don't even know what it's going to be, but everybody looks forward to these things. We're finally going to get it. We're finally going to get disclosure. And then it's stuff we've already heard about, already know. It's like, I don't
yeah,
put any stock in any of that stuff anymore. If we find out that there is something, it's going to be because, well, they revealed themselves to us, and whoever they are,
yeah.
or something.
Well, and I quite frankly, I wouldn't trust any kind of disclosure from the government, because
Yeah.
over the last 65 years, their track record of, well, their version of disclosure and mine are not apparently the
No,
same.
no, they're not the same at all. No, I completely agree. Yeah, they've tried. We have plenty of documented evidence that they've tried to deceive us on this very topic over and
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
and over. Project Blue Book, all these, our PR efforts to get us off track. For what reason? Because they can use it. Is there? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and that, you bring up a fascinating point. When I heard about the disclosure that was supposed to happen with all this stuff,
Yeah,
one of the things I was um hoping for, but being realistic enough to believe that it'll never happen, is there is documented evidence that the U.S. Air Force during the Project Blue Book era, for example,
yeah,
did try to humiliate and shame and ostracize people for telling people what they saw,
yeah. That's right.
and caused them great harm. I mean, some people killed themselves. Like, they
Yeah,
caused individuals great harm who were just reporting what they saw.
right.
I, I wonder if they'll disclose that part. I'll bet you they don't.
No, no, I doubt they'll disclose that part. And that then does beg the question of why? Why,
Right.
why do that? So what's so there's and is it true? Is the truth out there? Scully and Mulder actually on the right
Yeah.
track? Who I until I
Well,
see it for myself.
let's bring it back to something we can put our eyes
Yeah,
on a little easier. As you and I are recording this, it's about a week before it actually publishes. So something might have happened between our recording and when this is released. But it feels to me like the hantavirus thing is following the same playbook as the coronavirus thing. Does it feel that way to you? Like there's this not only the cruise ship, or
yeah,
like the people on the cruise ship. Okay, there's that correlation, but
yeah,
also like, well, we send them all home and everything's cool. Don't worry about
yeah.
it. And then, well, actually, we're gonna quarantine some of them. Like it kind of feels like the same story unfolding.
Well, my theory behind that is I think there's people in power that would like it to be the same because it's an opportunity, right?
Yeah,
Anything like that becomes an opportunity to
yeah,
exert more control. Now, I mean, just biologically speaking, that virus has been around unchanged for, you know, millennia, right? So it's nothing new. I don't think it's going to turn into that because I don't think they're going to be able to make it into that. But there's no doubt that the people in power, never let it was Rahm Emanuel, right? Never let a good
yeah,
crisis go to waste, right? So I
yeah,
think the people that benefit off of those things would love to be able to say, well, just in case we're going to do this and this and this and this because you don't want to die a horrible death. There's no treatment for
yeah,
heart
yeah.
virus, etc. And
By
then
the way, the that never let a crisis go to waste. I just learned 2 weeks ago that he stole that from Winston Churchill.
oh, is
Churchill
that
said that
right?
way before Rahm Emanuel did. Yeah, yeah.
Oh well, I'm going to
Not
start have
not exactly word for word.
right.
It's like he said it in the reverse order, like, you know, um, never waste a good crisis or something like
Yeah.
that, or whatever. It was exactly the same differently, but Winston Churchill's where he got that from.
Well, I'm going
But
to
the
have
part,
to look that up because I would much rather credit Winston Churchill than Rahm Emanuel.
yeah, yeah, there you go. But the part that feels like it's the same playbook is there's already competing stories on, well, this is not transmissible between humans, and
Right.
oh, but it is, and we already have a case where somebody got it from somebody who was on the cruise ship. Like
Yeah.
all that stuff is unfolding.
Yeah.
It seems like very similarly to how the coronavirus unfolded. And if you had to pick a time to have a great distraction, I don't know, oil being $100 a barrel and all that stuff. Not a horrible time for a good distraction.
No, that's true. No, I think that's true, and I think you have to be able to look at the wag the dog scenarios in all of these different
Yeah,
things that are happening because there's no question that I think that the impact of the war and the oil thing we're going to feel the impact in weeks or months, and we're going to have a recession. It's inevitable. That's all going to happen. It can't not happen unless there's some I just don't see a scenario where it's not going to happen. It's
well, they
just
could throw $6 trillion at the economy again.
well, see, yeah, they could just whip out the big the money fire hose and spray the
They
economy with
follow
cash again.
the coronavirus playbook. You just
Yeah, yeah, well,
print
that's
trillions of
true.
dollars and give everybody
And
their $600 and let it trickle up to Wall Street and like do the
And
same
certainly
thing.
Trump has not shown any kind of reticence to. I mean, he's given out money. He shows no reticence to giving out money. So it could very well be that might be. Now, if they do that, I'll take it. And hopefully I won't have to pay it back before I die.
Yeah. Well, I guess the through line for this episode is um all these things have a yeah but all
Yeah.
like the water conservation, all the different the things we have to do to temper our behavior as far as consumption of things,
Right.
all that stuff really matters. Yeah, but if it's for AI, if it's for multinational billion-dollar corporations, we'll figure out another way.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think that's going to be the only way that gets reset is through a crisis. That's the only way that gets reset because it is the operating system now. It's not something that a few nefarious people do, but I think it's one of those things where, people have realized if you can't beat them, join them, and so it's
Yeah.
kind of where there's no party that's exempt from that or doesn't do it.
Well, and if you look at like the a linear cycle of how this would look, in the warm and fuzzy phase, the first turning, um, we're all about each other. We're all kumbaya.
Yeah,
We all have the same belief system, and the what do they call it, the pillars of society,
yeah,
what's the word I'm looking for, the institutions
yeah.
are designed to serve the people,
People,
not
yes.
just the wealthy people, the majority of the people, right?
Right,
Well, then over time, it becomes indifference to the people.
right,
And then over more time, it becomes at the expense of the people. It feels
right.
like that's kind of the trajectory. Now,
Yeah,
again, I'm not a historian, but just looking at my life,
sure.
um, things like unemployment benefits were there to serve the people. Well,
Right,
now they're like, which people, now we're kind of parsing out which pigs are, in the animal farm version.
right.
Some animals are more
More equal than others.
equal than others.
Yeah,
So unemployment, if you're or medical insurance, like if you're not from the United States, you get a higher level of priority on medical
yeah,
care at no expense than
right.
citizens. So it's not indifference anymore.
No,
Now it's at the expense of.
it's proactive at the expense of on, and I think what we're discovering with like all of these fraud cases that are popping up everywhere is that more than, and this is the thing that's staggering to me. I've always believed and known that there's waste, fraud, and abuse, other waste, fraud, blah, 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 blah. But the amount and the scope of that, like with those, each we find a new state, we find entire new
Yeah,
states. It's like, oh, there's a
yeah,
building. We walk down this entire building is got 92 organizations in it, and there's not even any electricity in the building, kind of thing. The scope of this in California, the running
yeah,
at billions. It's not just the expense of the people as a side hustle; it's the expense of people in your face on a mega scale.
yeah,
So that's what, because you tend to think of, yeah, there's some abuse in the system, maybe 1 or 2% of the budget's abuse. You don't tend to think of a system that is even possible to exist where there's 75% of the expense is fraud or abuse.
right.
Not even
Where
waste
where
because
the
nothing's happening.
entire structure was
Yes.
developed to cause
Yes.
harm to regular taxpayers
Yes.
for fraud purposes, not just the buddy getting a round of golf here and
Yeah.
there, the friend of the CEO. Like,
Right.
it's not that anymore. Like
It's not,
the
we can get
entire
away with it.
structure was designed for fraud.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah. All
yeah,
and the fact is that and a number of other factors. You probably heard of, there's the mayor of Valencia, California, a not insignificant place, was just arrested because she's a literal Chinese Communist Party agent. So
yeah,
the thing that has in common with what we're talking about is all of these things are not, typical waste. And a typical fraud in the past has been in the dark corner, in the
right,
little bit here and there. All of these things are out in the open and are blatant and are
yeah,
with no attempt to hide it at all. Whether it's Fang Fang, or
yeah,
it's this one, or all of the ones that have been just at levels that are staggering in their brashness and
right.
scope.
I saw. It's funny you mentioned that. I saw a clip. I don't know, today or yesterday or something. It was JD Vance. It must have been today because he was at the
Mhm.
podium. Trump would have been if Trump was there probably. But um, I think he was talking to Dr. Oz,
Mhm.
who's in charge of some federal bureau
Yeah.
of some sort, right? Um, and JD Vance looked at whoever, I think it was Dr. Oz, but whoever he's looking at, and said, we revoked federal funding from 800 organizations because of fraud.
Yeah.
Of those, and he asked the person he was talking to the question, is it true that not one of those said, hey, you guys caught us up in the thing? Like, no, we're legit. And the person he was talking to, I think Dr. Oz, was like,
Yeah.
no, out of 800, zero said, you got us and this is wrong.
Yeah. That's just, it's staggering. It is staggering that level of corruption. It's just hard to, and I guess that's why they get away with it, because nobody would believe it's too impossible to be true. But it
Yeah.
nevertheless is
Well,
true.
it goes back to what you and I say all the time. They wouldn't do that.
It wouldn't do that.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
They wouldn't do that. And in 1950, that was 100% true.
It wouldn't
People,
have done it.
they had a very, very small, tiny fraction of the population or people in charge
Yeah,
who would do those nefarious things. Then you,
right.
well, they get away with it and it breeds more and they get away with it and breeds more. And pretty soon that becomes the purpose.
Yeah.
Like the saying, the purpose of a system is what it does.
Yes. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
in 1950, the purpose of the systems was to take care of the general population.
Right.
And now that is not the purpose of the system. So
Completely opposite.
yeah, I used to kind of like repulse or get like revolt when people say, "Oh, the system's rigged against you." I used to be like, "What? Knock it off! Like, suck it up
Yeah.
and get to work." Right?
Yeah.
My thinking on that has changed pretty dramatically.
Oh, mine
You
too.
can't have this kind of fraud at the scale and scope you're describing and not have that be intentional.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely. And the fact that it can happen illustrates at that scale, illustrates that the only way to, you can't correct that. In other words, you can't
Right.
fix it. It's too, it's like the cancer is through the entire body.
Yeah.
If you remove all the cancer, there's nothing left
Right.
in the
Yeah.
system.
Some would say it calls for revolution. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but some
But
people
it's
would say that.
probably whether it's an intentional revolution or it's just an organic thing that happens, or
Yeah.
whether it's a guns a-blazing revolution or everybody
Yeah.
just gets fed up and starts a new thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's some kind of revolution.
We have to get back to institutions and systems that are here to support regular people
People.
just taking
Yeah.
care of their families.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, again, I don't have any idea how this is going to manifest, but
Yep.
it feels to me like a meaningful part of this resetting we're going to go through is to get those things back functioning how they should.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep, and that's one of the purposes of the next several years. God help us.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, as Dave said in the beginning, we're trying to explain to future generations what it's like to live through this period of time, as they will undoubtedly look back and wonder what was wrong with us. We'd love to get your feedback, though. What did we say that was especially on point or especially wrong? You can do that at unsilentpodcast or .com, or Rumble has a great comment section. And until next week, this is Dave and Brian signing off.
See you next week.
Do you want to be unsilent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.